I was 12 the summer Ellie vanished. I still remember the last thing she said to me. Not because it was profound or poetic, but because it was ordinary. "You should stay inside today, Finn. It's gonna be hot." Her voice had that lilt she always used when she was teasing, half warning, half dare. I was in the kitchen, spooning peanut butter straight from the jar, the fan rattling overhead and the window wide open, letting in the cicadas' steady hum and the smell of pine sap baking on bark. She was already halfway out the back door when she said it. Barefoot, wild-haired, and wearing Dad's old flannel like it was a cloak. I didn't know it would be the last time I'd hear her speak like that, half here, half somewhere else already. I saw her go. I stood at the window and watched her walk toward the tree line. She didn't look back. She was whispering something. That part's always stuck with me, like a thorn under my skin. Whispering, like she was answering someone. But I couldn't see anyone there. Just the woods, still and green and swallowing. I never heard what she said. I didn't try to follow. Because I was scared. Not of the forest, but of the way she looked. Like she belonged to something else all of a sudden. That was 6 years ago. And no one ever found her. They said she ran away? The sheriff half-heartedly asked questions. A few neighbors helped hang flyers at the gas station and the library. Mom cried in interviews, her face drawn like an old photograph. Dad, he didn't cry. He didn't do much of anything. Just sat on the porch every night with a beer and a blank stare, until he moved out 2 years later. Said he couldn't stay in a house full of ghosts. But I know she didn't run. She left, yeah? But not away from us. She went towards something. The woods behind our house aren't ordinary. They never were. But no one talks about that. Not out loud. Everyone just sort of knows, the way you know not to touch a wasp nest or swim too far past the dock. There are things you don't disturb. I used to go there with Ellie when we were younger. We had a tree we called the split giant, a huge maple with a scar down the middle like it had been struck by lightning. She said it was our portal. We made up stories about where it could take us. When I was 9, I told her I heard music coming from the forest one night. She didn't laugh. She just nodded and said, "It doesn't always play for everyone." She always knew more than me. Felt more than me. Like the world gave her extra senses. The first time I heard her again was 2 summers after she disappeared. I was 16. I'd started cutting through the woods again, mostly because I didn't care what happened to me anymore. You get numb after a while. To silence. To people's pity. To your own thoughts. It was hot that day, the kind of heat that sticks to your skin and presses down on your lungs. I was walking the same path she took, toward the split giant, when I heard it. Humming. Soft. Familiar. It was her. I froze. I didn't even breathe. It was coming from the other side of the tree. The split giant. I ran to it, faster than I ever had as a kid, but no one was there. Just leaves and moss and the same silence I'd gotten used to. But something was different. The light. It was late afternoon when I entered the woods, but the light coming through the canopy had changed. It was sharp, silver, almost moonlight blue. The kind of light you only see in dreams or memories. And the woods were quiet. Not just silent. Empty. No birds. No insects. Not even the wind. I thought I was going crazy. Until I stepped back onto the trail and realized something was wrong. My watch read 4:12 p.m. But when I made it home, Mom was frantic. Screaming. Crying. I'd been gone for 3 days. She grounded me, of course. Yelled at me for being reckless. But I could tell she didn't fully believe me when I said I didn't know what happened. She looked at me like I might be cracked in the same way Ellie was. Like maybe it ran in the family. That's when I started keeping records. A notebook. Flashlight. Compass. Trail markers. All the things Ellie never brought with her. I started going back into the woods alone. Again and again. Because I needed to know. I've been stuck in that loop ever since. Not just the time loop, the grief loop. The obsession. The hope. The ache. It cycles through me like the seasons. Some days I hear her laugh echo between the trees. Once I saw her flannel shirt hanging from a branch, dry and whole like it hadn't aged a day. Another time, I swear I caught her reflection in the creek, smiling, like she wasn't missing at all, like she was home. It doesn't make sense. But the forest doesn't need to make sense. I talked to one person about it. Old Mr. Keene, the town historian. He lived alone by the river and smelled like cedar smoke and tobacco. I asked him about the woods, about the time skips, about people who disappear. He didn't blink. Just said, "Sometimes the land remembers more than we do, and sometimes it chooses not to let go." I asked if people come back. He looked out the window and said, "Some do. But they're not the same." I don't know what happened to Ellie. Not exactly. But I know she didn't leave me. Not really. Sometimes, at night, I sit by the split giant and I whisper to the trees. I tell her I miss her. That I'm sorry I didn't follow. That I'm not afraid anymore. And sometimes, when I close my eyes, I hear her whisper back. The second time I heard her, it was a full moon. That matters somehow. I know it does, though I haven't figured out why. There are patterns in the woods, but they don't follow our calendars. They loop and twist and fold over themselves like pages in a burned book, half legible, half ash. But the moon always feels closer in there. Brighter. Like it's watching. I brought a tape recorder that night. I told myself I wouldn't talk, wouldn't make a sound, just leave it there, tucked inside the hollow of the split giant, where the bark curls like old lips. I left it running and came back before sunrise. What I found on the tape still makes my stomach knot. First silence. Then cicadas. Then footsteps, light ones, barefoot, slow. Then humming. Ellie's voice. I know it. I know it. She was humming the same tune she always sang when she braided my hair as a kid. Something soft and old, wordless and round like lullabies passed down through bloodlines. And then she spoke. Only once. "Why didn't you come with me, Finn?" I dropped the recorder. Not then. Later. After I listened. I dropped it in the middle of the living room, cracked the battery case, and nearly threw up. It felt like someone had opened me up from the inside, like I'd swallowed a memory I wasn't ready for. I started sleeping on the floor after that, with my backpack packed, shoes on, just in case she called again. I never told Mom. What would I say? That her daughter's voice was hiding in a tape recorder stuffed inside a cursed tree? She was already barely hanging on, drinking wine at noon, watching old home videos of Ellie on repeat until the tape hissed. One night I asked her, "Do you think she's still alive?" She didn't look at me. Just took a sip and said, "Some people leave and don't want to be found." But I could tell she didn't believe that. Not really. She was just trying to survive the silence. I kept going back to the forest. I started marking the trees, first with chalk, then with nails, and finally with carved symbols Ellie and I made up as kids. Stars. Spirals. Broken hearts. They were like breadcrumbs. But the strangest thing? Sometimes they weren't there anymore. I'd carve one in, come back 2 days later, and the bark would be smooth again. Like the forest healed itself. Like it didn't want to be mapped. Or maybe it didn't want me to find her. The first time the time loop pulled me in again, I knew what was happening. The light changed. That's always the first sign. It dims suddenly, like someone covered the sun with a thick veil. Then the sounds go, no rustle, no wind. Just breath. My breath. Then the path disappears. This time, I didn't panic. I followed the silver light deeper. The trees looked older here. Twisted like dancers caught mid-spin. Moss thicker than blankets. And in the middle of it all, a clearing I'd never seen before. She was standing there. Ellie. She looked the same. Still 17. Still barefoot. Same flannel. Same long braid. But her eyes, God, her eyes. They weren't scared. They weren't sad. They were ancient, tired, like she'd been awake for 100 years. I stepped forward. My legs shook. She didn't move. Just watched me, one hand outstretched. I couldn't speak. Couldn't breathe. She smiled. You finally came. Then, everything snapped. I woke up in my bed. Still in my forest clothes. Mud on my shoes. A scrape on my cheek I don't remember getting. It was 3:33 a.m. 3 days had passed. Again. There are rules, I think. Unwritten, maybe even unspoken, but they're there. The deeper you go, the longer you're gone. The forest doesn't always let you leave. You can't stay with someone who belongs to the loop. If you hear your name whispered, you have to answer. I haven't broken that last one yet. But I've come close. Last week, I found something new. Buried near the split giant, right where the roots curl outward like fingers. A Polaroid. Of Ellie. And me. Taken after she vanished. We're both older in the picture. I have a scar I don't have yet, just under my chin. She's holding my hand. Smiling. Like we're safe. There's a timestamp in red ink at the bottom. August 18th, 2026. That's next summer. I've stopped trying to tell myself this isn't real. The forest is bending time. Looping it. Rewriting it. I don't know why. I don't know what it wants. But I know this. Ellie is in there. And she's waiting. Sometimes I think she's protecting me. Other times I think she's trapped, calling me closer so I'll fall in too. But I don't care anymore. If the forest wants me, it can have me. Because wherever she is, that's where I'm going. I didn't sleep the night I found the Polaroid. I sat at the edge of my bed, shoes on, the photo clenched in my fist, staring at the red numbers burned into the bottom like a countdown. August 18th, 2026. Next summer. A day that hadn't happened yet. A day that would. That's the thing about the loop. It doesn't just swallow time. It spits out pieces, memories that haven't happened, scars you haven't earned, voices that know things you haven't told anyone. The forest doesn't steal time. It collects it. And Ellie's in the middle of it. I started mapping everything. Not just where I went, but when. I charted moon phases, temperature drops, wind patterns, even the way shadows fell across tree trunks. Every time something strange happened, every time the light turned that dull silver blue, I made a mark in my notebook. The more I recorded, the less sense it made. Sometimes I'd leave the house at noon and come back with frost in my hair. Once I heard my own voice, speaking ahead of me, like I was chasing a version of myself I hadn't met yet. Another time, I woke up in the clearing where I'd seen Ellie, with dirt under my fingernails and a flower crown in my lap. I hadn't made it. But someone had. And stitched into the stems was a note. You're getting closer. I started dreaming again. Not the kind of dreams that flicker and fade. No. These were loops, too. Nightmares that bled into the real world. I'd wake up gasping, and the scent of pine would still be in my sheets. Once, I woke with twigs tangled in my hair. Another time, I had scratches down my arms, thin and deliberate, like words trying to be written. I showed one to Mom. She just stared at it, then walked away. I think she's afraid of me now. Like maybe I'm disappearing, too. I keep hearing Ellie's voice. But it's changing. Before, it sounded like her. Now it's older. Wiser. It echoes from every direction, soft and layered, like it's been recorded over itself again and again. Sometimes she says my name. Sometimes she hums. And sometimes she asks me questions. Do you still remember the game we played with the red stones? What did you leave behind in the summer house? If I open the door, will you come through? The door. That's new. She keeps mentioning it. In dreams. In whispers. The door. I didn't know what she meant, until I found it. It was 2 days ago. I followed a trail that shouldn't have existed, lined with those same red stones we used to collect as kids. The path wound through the oldest part of the woods, where trees arch like cathedral ceilings and roots tangle like veins. And there it was. A door frame. Standing alone. No walls. Just a rotted, paint-peeled door in the middle of a clearing. Half covered in ivy, handle rusted, keyhole empty. I walked around it. It had no back. Just a freestanding slab of wood and metal that shouldn't have been there. And yet, I could feel heat radiating from it. I could hear something moving behind it. Something breathing. I didn't open it. Not yet. But I will. Because something's calling me through. Pulling me. And I think it's her. I've stopped going to school. No one really noticed. Not even the principal. Small towns have a way of forgetting the broken kids. I spend my days in the forest now. Taking notes. Following shadows. Trying not to lose track of myself. Because that's the other thing I've learned. The loop doesn't just take time. It takes you. Piece by piece. Memories go first. Then names. Then faces. I saw a man once, deep in the loop. His skin was paper thin, his hair white as birch bark. He whispered to me in a voice like wind through leaves. "Don't let her teach you the song." When I asked who he meant, he just stared at my chest. Then wept. But I have heard the song. Ellie sings it sometimes. Always at dusk. The same haunting melody, low, circular, ancient. I've tried to hum it back. But it feels wrong on my tongue, like I'm choking on forgotten words. Once I recorded it. When I played it back, it was just static. But hidden in the static was a second voice. Mine. Singing with her. I should be afraid. I know I should. But I'm not. Because every time I get close to her, I feel it, this strange warmth in my chest. Like something locked is slowly being unlatched. Like I'm not losing myself. I'm finding who I've always been. What if the forest isn't a trap? What if it's a memory? A forgotten path? A return? Tomorrow is the full moon again. The same phase as the night she vanished. I've packed my bag. I've carved her name into my arm, just in case I forget it. I've taken everything I might need. And I'm going to the door. I don't care what's behind it. Because Ellie's voice is getting louder. And now she says just one thing. Open it. I went at night. Not because I had to, but because something in me knew it had to be night. The forest changes after sunset. Not just in sound and shape, but in presence. It breathes differently. The roots shift when you're not looking. The air thickens. It watches. I took nothing but my flashlight, the photo, and my sister's old flannel tied around my neck like a talisman. It still smelled like her. Pine needles. Cinnamon gum. Ghost. The red stones led the way again. More of them this time, like breadcrumbs and blood. Laid out in a perfect arc. I followed them past the old stream that runs uphill when it rains, through a grove that buzzes like bees even in winter, and into the clearing where time always bends sideways. Where the door waited. Same as before. Same as always. But this time, it was open. There's no way to describe what I saw. Not really. It wasn't a room. It wasn't a place. It was before. It was after. The inside of the door didn't lead into a house or a hallway. It led into her memory. And mine. And something deeper than both. It looked like our backyard, but brighter. Like it had been painted in memory instead of light. The grass was taller, the sky a bruised purple, and the swing set creaked without wind. She was there. Sitting cross-legged under the willow, where we used to dig holes and pretend we were burying treasure. Only now I know what we were really doing, marking something. A place. A tear. She didn't look up. She was humming again. And the world began to loop. The moment repeated. Over and over. Ellie beneath the willow. Her hands in the dirt. The swing swaying. The humming. Then again. Then again. Each time, something shifted. The sky cracked a little more. Her braid unraveled strand by strand. The humming got louder, then fractured into static. On the 7th loop, she spoke. You came too early. My mouth was dry. Ellie. She didn't turn. This isn't the right loop. You're not ready yet. I stepped forward. The ground wasn't dirt anymore, it was made of pages. Torn out sheets from notebooks and fairy tales and medical reports. I looked down and saw my name on them. My handwriting. Letters I never wrote. Maps I never drew. Dates I haven't lived. My own future scattered beneath me. I kept walking anyway. Please, I said. Just tell me what you want. That made her look up. Her eyes weren't right. They were mirrors. And in them, I saw myself. But older. With blood on my face. And a voice I didn't recognize but somehow knew. You'll take my place soon, she whispered. And I'll forget. The world started to fold. Not collapse, fold. Like paper. Like the pages at my feet were being turned back. Time reversing on itself. My limbs felt heavy. The air shimmered with something ancient and electric. She reached out. Not to me, but to the door. The real one. Outside. And she whispered, Wake up, Finn. I opened my eyes in my backyard. Morning light. Real light. Birds singing. Cars passing. The normal sounds that never happen in the loop. For a second, I thought it had been a dream. Until I looked at my hands. They were covered in dirt. And in one of them, clenched so tight it left a mark in my palm, was a small red stone. I haven't spoken to anyone since. Not Mom. Not the few friends I haven't yet pushed away. Not even the sheriff, who left another flyer about Ellie on our porch yesterday like she was still just a missing person. I don't blame them. They haven't seen what I've seen. But they will. Because it's changing now. Bleeding through. Last night, my reflection blinked when I didn't. I'm not kidding. I stood at the bathroom sink, washing the dirt from my fingernails, and when I looked up, he was still staring. Me. But older. Hair longer. Scar under his chin. The version from the Polaroid. He lifted a finger and pressed it to the mirror. A word formed in the condensation. Remember. I think I'm beginning to. Not just her face. Not just her voice. The deal. We made a deal, Ellie and I. Back before she vanished. Back in the summer heat, under the split giant, when we were still just kids whispering nonsense into the bark of a cursed tree. If one of us gets taken, she'd said, the other has to follow. No matter what. I said yes. I said I would. And I did. But I was late. And now it's my turn to stay. I don't think the forest wants me to leave again. I feel it. In the way the trees lean closer when I walk. In the way the air thickens near the boundary, like oil instead of wind. In the way the light bends just slightly wrong at sunset. The loop is pulling tighter. Time is fraying at the edges. I've started waking up before I fall asleep. And sometimes I see her walking through the hallway. Barefoot. Humming. She doesn't look at me. She just whispers. Not yet, Finn. But soon. She's in the mirrors now. Not every time. Not everywhere. But enough. Enough that I've started covering them. Blankets over the bathroom glass. Towel over the one in the hallway. My bedroom mirror I smashed with a rock, and now the shards are tucked in a shoebox under my bed, humming. Yes, humming. Like her. Like the forest. Like the door still half open in my mind. I don't think she's trying to scare me. I think she's trying to remind me. But I don't know what I'm supposed to remember. Only that it matters. Only that it hurts. The Polaroid is changing. The one I found buried near the split giant. The one dated August 18th, 2026. It's not the same anymore. We're still in the picture, Ellie and I. Still holding hands. Still older. But now, in the background, behind the willow tree, there's a figure. Blurry. Barefoot. Head tilted. Watching. I think it's me. The loops are speeding up. They used to take days. Now they take hours. Sometimes I walk into the woods after breakfast and return before lunch, but the clocks say 3 days have passed. Other times I sleep through an entire week and wake up to find bruises on my legs, pine needles in my socks, and words scrawled across my arm in charcoal. You promised. I did. I do. I will. Yesterday, I found the summer house again. We hadn't been there since Dad left. It's a ruin now, slats missing from the walls, vines crawling through the kitchen, the roof sagging like a dying breath. But inside, everything felt paused. Not ruined. Just held. On the table, in a thick layer of dust, were 2 plates. One with crust from a peanut butter sandwich. One with a bite missing. My plate. Ellie's. Exactly the way we left it the last time we were there. But that was 6 years ago. The air inside was wrong. Not stale. Not musty. Fresh. Like something had just moved through. There was something scratched into the window pane with a fingernail. I had to tilt my head to see it against the light. Don't forget who you were before you followed me. It was her handwriting. I know because I've seen it in my notebooks. She's been writing in them. When I flip through now, there are entries I don't remember making. Dates that haven't happened yet. Sketches of places I haven't seen, but I will. I recognize them from my dreams. There's a hill deep in the forest. I call it the looping place. It's always there, but never in the same spot. I find it when I'm not looking. And when I climb to the top, I see them, versions of me. Running. Sitting. Screaming. Crying. Once, I saw one of me walk to the edge and jump. The others didn't react. The loop just blinked, and he was back, staring up at the sky again. Ellie was there, too. Watching from the tree line. Mouth moving. No sound. I've started writing letters. To myself. To Mom. To Ellie. In case I forget. In case I don't come back. In case this loop finally seals and I become one of the boys on the hill. I buried one under the split giant yesterday. It said, if you find this, you're still real. You still remember. You still love her. That's enough. Mom knocked on my door this morning. She looked smaller. Tired in a way that wasn't just grief, it was knowing. Like she'd always suspected something but never wanted to say it. She asked, is she still with you? And I said, yes. She nodded once, eyes glassy, and left. She believes me. Maybe she always did. Maybe she's been waiting too. Tonight I'll go back. Not just to wander. Not just to watch. I'm going to find the clearing again. I'm going to open the door fully. No matter what's waiting on the other side. No matter what version of me is already there. Because I don't think I was ever meant to stay here. Not really. The forest didn't steal Ellie. It called her home. And now, it's calling me. One last thing before I go. I looked in the mirror today. The one I forgot to cover. And she was there. Ellie. Older. Smiling. She pressed her hand to the glass. And behind her, the forest bloomed in reverse. Leaves falling upward. Shadows crawling like ink. Light folding into itself. She said, it's time to remember what we were before the world forgot us. Then she was gone. But the mirror still hummed. And the door is open again. Waiting. There's no before anymore. Only between. Between this world and that one. Between waking and the dream. Between the moment Ellie stepped into the woods and the moment I followed. I stepped through the door again. And this time, I didn't look back. The forest didn't look like itself. Not the one behind our house. Not the one from childhood. This forest was older. Truer. The bark glowed faintly, like veins lit from within. The leaves whispered names, not words, just names, mine, hers, versions of us scattered across time like seeds. I walked without knowing where. The path made itself beneath me. I passed the swing set, but it hung from air. I passed the summer house, but it was whole again, flickering between rot and radiance. I passed the mirror tree. That's what I called it. A trunk split in half with bark like glass. When I looked into it, I saw her. Ellie. Not standing. Becoming. She was shifting in the reflection. Braids unbraiding. Eyes closing. Mouths opening in song. Each version of her singing a different line. It wasn't a melody, it was a map. And I understood then. She hadn't been lost. She'd been translated. There's a name for this place. I heard it in the wind, spoken by 1,000 voices at once, including my own. The Unforgotten. It's not a location. Not a myth. It's a memory that remembers you back. A space that collects what grief buries. What time erodes. What reality edits. Ellie wasn't taken. She was chosen. And maybe I am too. The air was heavy, but I could breathe. Each breath tasted like a season. One of them was the summer before she vanished, vanilla popsicles and river mud. One was the winter she got pneumonia and I slept outside her room for a week. One was the moment Dad left. That breath hurt the most. I reached the clearing again. But it had changed. It wasn't a clearing anymore. It was a circle. Etched into the earth. 13 stones. All red. All warm to the touch. And in the center. Her. Ellie. But not standing. Not waiting. Woven. Into vines. Into root. Into air. Her face was everywhere. Petals and stars and soil. I knelt down and whispered, "I'm here." The wind answered, "So am I." She told me what happened. Not in words, in remembering. It poured through me like light. Like music. The summer she disappeared, she didn't mean to go far. Just a few steps into the time-bent places. She heard the song and followed. She thought she'd be back by dinner. But the forest keeps you when you don't know how to leave. And it loved her. Not like people do. Like memory does. Like myth. It held her gently. Let her grow roots. Made her part of the story that keeps the loop turning. She wasn't trapped. She belonged. And she missed me. She asked why I came. I told her the truth. Because no one else believed. Because the world forgot her. Because I didn't. Because I never would. Because we made a promise, blood sworn under the split giant, and I'd come to keep it. Her eyes filled with stars. "You're ready then," she said. "Ready for what?" She smiled. And the clearing bloomed. Flowers with our names on them. Songs curling out of the stones. Birds that spoke in our childhood riddles. The air pulsed with our laughter, loops from old summers playing like lullabies. And in the center of it all, a second door. Not like the first. This one was alive. Carved from the bones of the forest. Bark still growing. Hinges made of roots and antler. No knob. No lock. Only blood. I knew what I had to do. I took the Polaroid from my pocket, the one that had changed again. Now it showed me alone, holding the flannel. Her side of the photo was fading. I pressed my palm to the wood. It was warm. It pulsed beneath my skin, asking me one question. "Are you willing to forget the pain, if it means remembering the truth?" I didn't hesitate. I whispered, "Yes." The door opened. And I fell. Not downward. Inward. Through time. Through memory. Through versions of me I didn't know I'd been. The first time I lied to her. The time I let her cry alone. The time I almost told Mom the truth but stayed silent. The time I said I'd follow her, and didn't. I saw it all. And still, I kept falling. Until there was nothing but the humming. Her song. Our song. And then... silence. I woke in the forest. Not the old one. Not the real one. Not the remembered one. Something new. Something between. Ellie was beside me. Older. Wearing the flannel. Smiling. She reached out and touched my hand. "Now you remember." I remembered everything. All at once. Not like a flash. Not like lightning. More like water seeping back into dry soil, slow and aching but full. Her laugh in the hallway when I tripped on my shoelaces. The way she said my name when she was mad, sharp, like it had corners. The promise we made, written in the dirt with broken twigs. And the last time I saw her smile before she turned to the woods and vanished into the trees. I'd spent 6 years searching for her like she was lost. But she hadn't been lost. She'd been waiting. For me to be ready. For me to remember. The place we were in now, this between, it didn't move like the world did. It had no sun, no shadows. Just a sky of soft gray silk and light that pulsed like breath. The air carried memories like pollen. Each step I took stirred something. Laughter. A song about a red balloon. The smell of oranges. Blood. Ellie walked beside me. Barefoot, always. The ground responded to her touch, leaves curling to kiss her soles, grass parting like reverence. She was part of this place now. And slowly. So was I. She showed me how the forest kept time. Not in hours or days. But in names. That's what the red stones were. Fragments of stories. Ours. Others. People who came looking. People who were taken. People who gave themselves freely. The stones held what was left of them. A name, a face, a promise, a scream. We passed a tree with dozens of initials carved into its skin. I ran my fingers over them. One of them was mine. The date beneath it? Tomorrow. You've been here before, she said. I nodded. I know. And you'll come again. I hope so. She turned toward me then, suddenly serious. Her voice a hush wrapped in wind. You don't have to stay. I blinked. But I came for you. And you found me, she said. She reached out, placed her palm over my chest. But not all of you is meant to remain. The choice felt too big for words. Leave? Return? Stay? Forget? She led me to the river that runs uphill. The one we crossed as kids with sticks for swords and pine cones for treasure. It looked different now. Wider. Deeper. Flowing with light instead of water. And across it on the far shore. Me. Younger. 14 maybe. Standing beside Mom. Crying. He couldn't see us. He didn't know. But I could feel it. That version of me, the one that never found the clearing, never opened the door, never stepped through. He was still searching. Still afraid. Still waiting. You can go back to him, Ellie said. Give him what he needs to let go. I stared across the river. And something inside me cracked open. Because she wasn't asking me to stay. She was asking me to carry her back. To remind that version of me, the one who stayed behind, that she was never lost. That she had always been part of something older, something deeper. That she had found peace. And that I could too. But if I go back, I whispered, will I forget again? Ellie smiled. Only the parts that hurt too much to hold. But you'll keep the song. I nodded. My throat was too tight for words. She stepped forward and hugged me. Her arms thin and strong and warm. And for a second, just one, I was a kid again. And we were just playing in the woods. Before all the vanishing. Before all the questions. Before the world got cruel. I stepped into the river. It wasn't cold. It wasn't wet. It was light. And the moment I passed through it, the loop cracked. The hum faded. The between let me go. I woke on the forest floor. Sunlight bleeding through leaves. Dirt in my nails. Blood on my palm from gripping the photo too tight. The Polaroid was blank now. Just white. Like a page waiting to be written on. It's been 2 weeks. No time jumps. No humming. No mirrors. Just me. The world feels heavier without her voice. But I know now, she's not gone. She's just somewhere else. Somewhere real. Somewhere remembered. I think that's what the forest really is. A place for the things we love too much to let disappear. A place that remembers us. I still walk the woods. Not to find her. But to feel her. And sometimes, When the wind moves just right through the trees, I hear her humming. Only now, she's not calling me closer. She's singing me home. I've started talking about her again. Not in hushed, half whispers behind closed doors. Not just to myself. Out loud. To people who still ask. To people who don't. At first, it felt like betrayal. Like saying her name would dissolve her all over again. Like breaking the fragile piece I found on the other side of the door. But it didn't. It stitched something together. I went to the diner last week. First time in a long while. Ruby, the waitress with the purple hair and too many rings, saw me sitting alone in the booth by the window and brought me a slice of lemon pie without asking. Ellie always ordered that, she said. And I nodded. She still would. Ruby didn't blink. Just left the pie, smiled faintly, and walked away. Some people here remember in their own quiet ways. Some carry the silence because it hurts less than the telling. I'm learning not to resent that anymore. Everyone holds memory differently. Some cradle it. Some bury it. Some carve it into stone and build lives around it. I carried mine into a place that rewrote me. And came back changed. The notebook is full now. The one I started when the loops began. I found pages at the back I didn't remember writing. Whole passages. Maps drawn in red ink. A sketch of the mirror tree. A circle of 13 stones. And one phrase, repeated again and again. She is not missing. She is remembered. I tore that page out and tacked it above my bed. So I see it first thing in the morning. So I don't forget again. I've stopped dreaming of the loop. But I still wake up sometimes with mud on my feet. Still find red stones in the cuffs of my jeans. Still hear her song in the whistle of the kettle, the rustle of curtains, the creak of the porch swing. She's in everything. Not haunting. Not trapped. Present. Mom's different now, too. We don't talk about it outright, but something passed between us. She started tending the backyard again. Pulled the ivy off the old shed. Repainted the fence. Planted snapdragons along the edge of the woods. She doesn't cry in front of the TV anymore. I think, in her own way, she's heard the song too. Even if she doesn't know it. Even if it reached her like a breeze through the kitchen window, wordless, brief, but true. I went back to the split giant today. It's thinner now. Hollowed. But standing. I ran my fingers along the groove in its trunk where Ellie and I carved our names. Still there. Still ours. I thought about carving something new beside it. A third name. Mine. But something stopped me. Because maybe this place isn't meant for new marks anymore. Maybe it's meant to hold the memory just as it is. Unchanged. Whole. I think about the other versions of me sometimes. The ones still lost in the loop. Still climbing the hill. Still waking to the sound of her song and not understanding what it means. I want to reach them. Tell them they're not crazy. Not broken. That remembering is a kind of return. That grief is a doorway. Because I didn't find Ellie in the forest. I didn't rescue her. That was never the point. She was never waiting to be saved. She was becoming something bigger than all of this. She chose the forest. And I chose to follow. Not to bring her back. But to understand. Some days I still ache. Some days I still catch myself watching the tree line and wondering if she'll step out, barefoot and grinning, holding the same secrets she left with. But most days I know better. She already has. Because I feel her now. Not in the way I used to. Not in absence. But in everything that remains. The stillness between birdsong. The crackle of leaves in the morning wind. The way dusk settles across the field like a sigh. And sometimes, in the moment before I fall asleep, when the world has gone soft and the walls no longer hold, I hear her whisper, "You remembered." And I whisper back, "I never forgot." The seasons feel different now. Not because they've changed, but because I have. Each shift, summer into fall, fall into frost, carries something ancient. Like I'm brushing against a much older rhythm than school calendars and morning weather reports. It's in the way the first leaf curls. The pause between birdsong and silence. The feeling of something watching, but no longer threatening. Just aware. It's almost a full year now since I stepped through the second door. Since I saw her woven into the roots of memory and myth, part of something greater than disappearance. I've tried to mark the day, but the calendar fails it. It didn't happen on a date. It happened in me. And it's still happening. I went back to the red stones last week. Only 12 now. One's missing. The spot where it should be was covered in moss, soft and thick, like the forest was gently erasing what it no longer needed. Maybe that stone was Ellie's. Maybe it was mine. Maybe it belonged to the version of me who walked away from the clearing that first time, afraid of what he saw. I don't know. But I knelt where it was, pressed my hand to the earth, and said thank you. Some things you only understand in the leaving. Some stories you don't know you're part of until you see them from the other side. I've started writing again. Not just notebooks. Letters. To people I haven't spoken to in years. To people who knew her. To people who forgot. Not to blame. To remind. I don't talk about the loop or the door or the way time bent like river glass. Those things are mine. Ours. But I tell them what matters. That she laughed louder than anyone in the room. That she always knew when you were lying. That she wore sadness like a crown and never let it make her cruel. That she loved the woods because they listened. And that the woods loved her back. Some write me off. Some don't reply. But some send letters back. Old photos. Stories I never knew. Little pieces of her I didn't even know I was missing until they filled the cracks. It's like she's coming into focus again. Like I'm meeting parts of her I never would have known if she'd stayed. There's something beautiful in that. Not every ending is a loss. The door hasn't opened again. Not fully. But I see its edges sometimes. In reflections. In dreams. In the way dusk touches the porch rail at just the right angle. And every time I feel it there, I place my hand over my chest and wait. I don't push. I don't call. I just wait. Because I know the forest is listening. Because I know Ellie is watching. Because I trust now. I used to think closure meant answers. That one day I'd stumble onto the right spell, the right turn of phrase, the right door that would give me everything back. My sister, my childhood, my sense of what's real. But I've learned something softer. Closure isn't a door slamming shut. It's the wind easing through an open one. It's the hum that lingers after a song ends. It's carrying someone in the small moments. Without needing to explain why. There's a ritual I do now. Not every day. Just when the air feels heavy, or the ache starts to rise again. I walk to the edge of the woods. Not in. Just to the edge. I take off my shoes. Close my eyes. And hum. The song we used to sing before the world changed. The one she taught me before I was ready to hear it. I hum it into the trees. And sometimes, just barely, I hear her hum it back. Not louder. Not closer. Just there. Like a memory that chooses to stay. Like a sister who never truly left. Like a promise that keeps its shape even after the name fades. Next week is August 18th. The date from the Polaroid. I don't know what it means anymore. Maybe nothing. Maybe everything. Maybe that version of me is still waiting to meet this one. Maybe the photo was just the forest reminding me that time doesn't move the way we think it does when we love someone this much. I've set one more stone beside the split giant. It's not red. Just white. Smooth and silent. It has no name on it. No message. It's not for remembering. It's for peace. For everything I can't explain. For everything I finally don't need to. They still say she ran away. If you ask around town, if you press the right people, they'll tell you she was a wild one. Strange. Always too quiet or too curious or too barefoot. They say she probably snapped. Got tired of the silence in the house. The weight of Mom. The way Dad would stare through her like she was already gone. They say she left in the middle of summer and never looked back. But I know better. Because I saw her walk into the woods. I saw her barefoot, humming, whispering to someone I couldn't see. And I know now. She wasn't leaving us. She was going home. I found her. Not in the way stories tell you to expect. There was no rescue. No grand reveal. No moment where I pulled her from the jaws of some shadow beast and brought her back in my arms. What I found was something older. Deeper. A truth that doesn't fit into search reports or missing posters. She didn't need saving. She needed someone to see. And I did. I do. There are days now where the pain still rises. Sharp. Random. The way sunlight falls through her bedroom window. The faint scent of cinnamon on an old sweater I didn't know we still had. The sound of a song in a stranger's voice on the sidewalk. It stings. And then it passes. Not because I push it away. But because I let it move through me. Like a tide that's learned its rhythm. I've started leaving little things in the woods. Offerings, maybe. Scraps of our childhood. A tiny toy horse we used to fight over. The broken cassette from her old Walkman. A photo of us with ice cream melting down our hands. Sometimes the offerings are gone when I return. Sometimes they stay exactly where I left them. And once, folded into the sleeve of her old flannel I keep tied to the fence post by the tree line, I found a note. 3 words. Written in black ink, slanted sideways like always. You came back. I did. I came back. Not to the forest. To myself. To her memory. To the space where the two of us still exist, not lost in time, not trapped in myth, but woven into something that remembers us. A loop. A song. A story. I think that's what grief becomes, when you walk through it far enough. Not something that ends. Something that transforms. A door you open again and again, not to return, but to remind. Sometimes I still hear her. Her footsteps in the grass. Her laugh in the branches. That final whisper when the wind hits just right. Not yet, Finn. But soon. But it doesn't ache like it used to. Because now I know. She isn't waiting anymore. And neither am I. I live in the house still. Mom's here too, though she spends more time on the porch now, knitting blankets no one asked for and watching the trees like they might blink. Sometimes she asks me, quietly, "Do you feel her?" And I always say yes. Because I do. Because we both do. Because she never left, not really. Not from the woods. Not from us. I don't know where the door is now. Maybe it closed. Maybe it opened somewhere else. Maybe it's not a door at all anymore. Maybe it's a garden, or a dream, or a single breath in the right moment of silence. I don't need to find it again. Because she found what she was meant to. And I found her. This was never a story about a missing girl. It was a story about remembering. About returning. About the strange places love takes us when it refuses to die. They say she ran away. But I know the truth. She walked into the woods barefoot, whispering to someone I couldn't see. And now. Sometimes I whisper back. And sometimes. She answers.